Okay, I am on.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We are here today for the Wednesday, July 5th, 2023 Orange Township Board of Trustees zoning hearing. Ms. Bonnie, can you please call roll?
Yes, Trustee Faust.
Here.
Trustee Knapp.
Here.
And Trustee Ringel.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Duffy, do you want to give us the staff report?
All right. Thank you, Board. We are here for a rezoning case ZON-23-02. The applicant is Dog Distilling Company, requesting a rezone for a property located at 3773 East Powell Road in Lewis Center. The applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 3.282 acres from planned commercial and office district to a new planned commercial and office district to allow for the operation of a distillery for spirituous liquor, tasting room, and bar. The property is currently zoned PCD under rezoning case 16744 and was approved in 2004 for the sole use and operation of a Christmas shop. In 2016, the property was granted a use variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, allowing for a separate use for a paint-your-own pottery and art retail business. Property is surrounded on all four sides by either farm residential and also some land that is within the City of Columbus limits. On the following page of the staff report, you can see the proposed site plan provided by the applicant. And then a summary of the applicant's rezoning requests. In terms of development standards, there are some setbacks that are discussed in the plan development text that diverge from the requirements in the planned commercial and office district. So section 21.10 of the Orange Township zoning resolution requires that any non-residential use abutting a residential district that be located no closer than 100 feet from any lot line. A divergence is requested from this provision. The property itself is at points less than 200 feet in total width, meaning that parts of the property would be undevelopable since the uses would be considered non-residential. Divergences from this provision have been requested, and that would be both on the north and south property lines. The minimum required front yard setback, as noted in section 21.09, is 70 feet from Powell Road. The current schoolhouse on the site exceeds this requirement, as would any buildings that would be constructed behind it. So the proposed setback from the north property line would be 40 feet, and the proposed setback from the southern property line would be 75 feet. Again, both of those require divergences. Speaking of divergences, there are a total of 4 that are requested. One from section 14.06E, requesting a divergence from the platting requirement since the applicant is not proposing to split the current parcel or record any major easements for access or utilities. A divergence from section 21.01E, requesting a divergence for parking as the business does not fit into our listed categories under minimum parking space requirements. Section 21.10, again, the divergence for the setbacks on the north and south property lines. And then section 21.12C7, they are requesting a divergence to allow for a lighting plan with foot candle levels to be submitted at the time of permitting rather than at the time of rezoning. And I would emphasize that the lighting standards, they are not requesting a change, they are just requesting that be submitted at the time of permitting rather than now. In terms of open space and landscaping, the total open space provided would be 2.95 acres, or roughly 89.9% of the site. The front of the schoolhouse would be landscaped, and the ravine area located at the rear of the site in the floodplain would be cleaned of debris, trash, and old fencing. Currently existing on the site, in terms of parking, there are 13 parking spaces with plans to add a minimum of 4 spaces. The site plan that the applicant has provided shows 31 spaces. However, the applicant has requested the divergence to allow for a minimum of 17 spaces as required in the text. For lighting, the applicant has submitted a lighting plan. However, again, it does not show the point-by-point foot candle levels as required per code. The applicant has requested a divergence for this requirement, noting that they will submit it at the time that the zoning permit is issued. There are currently 4 street lamps next to the existing parking lot, which will be altered and painted black. Also existing currently are 2 path lights near the sidewalks that will be replaced with a similar style light. Apologies. In the staff report, I made a reference to a previous divergence request, which has since been removed for maximum height for lighting. No signage plan was submitted with this application, which means that all signs would need to comply with the Orange Township standards laid out in Section 22. The 2018 comprehensive plan identifies this property to be within and shows it as planned commercial. Recommendations within this sub-area consists of preserving the deep ravines as common open spaces and not allowing developments within the floodplain. For public comment, the application includes an email from the property owner to the north of the subject property in support of the divergence for reduced setbacks. Since then, I did receive one other email this morning, which I forwarded to you early this afternoon from the property owner to the south, also in support of the application. In terms of technical review from various agencies and boards and commissions, the Orange Township Fire Department has not reviewed or commented on this application as they have not received site plan submittal. Delaware County Regional Planning heard this application at their May 25th hearing. They issued their recommendation of conditional approval subject to 4 conditions, and I would say that those conditions have been met to the satisfaction of Orange Township staff. The Orange Township Zoning Commission recommended approval with modifications by a 4-1 vote at their meeting on June 13th. That modification was to remove 2 divergence requests for site lighting and signage. The applicant has removed those as requested by the Zoning Commission. The current divergence request for lighting is separate from the one that was previously in the application and again was removed at the request of the Zoning Commission. Staff does recommend approval of this application, provided that the applicant continues to work with the Orange Township Fire Department to ensure that their requirements are met. That concludes the staff report. I have nothing further at this time, and I believe the applicant is on hand if they wish to give a brief overview of their application and answer any questions that the board may have.
Hello. So first and foremost, we can clearly see how busy you are. So thank you very much.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Issues with recording. Thank you.
And then
Put it like this way, like in front of your face.
if you can state your name.
Channel your inner singer.
Hello, this is Lori Webb. I can ready to state my address. It's 14520 Center Village Road.
My license start at 3109 Silver Court, Cleveland.
And our spouses and partners are right behind us, Ken and Kelly. We'll just give kind of an overview of why we even want to go into this business, right? We all have full-time jobs in the corporate world or the healthcare world. And we decided in our empty nest years, or soon to be empty nest years, we wanted to do something that the community could enjoy, something that we've enjoyed ourselves. And we enjoy going to distilleries. And my husband is a chemist, so he's our master distiller. But it was something that we could put in the community. We could have a place where people can come together after a long day of work or just a stressful time, come together, meet people, just really come together and enjoy life and just decompress, because we all need decompression on a routine basis. So we're not quitting our day jobs because we can't afford to do that yet. The goal is clearly that we will be able to. But really, that was the premise of it. We want to give back to the community. We want to be good neighbors. We've been at the hearings, obviously. We're definitely hearing what neighbors are saying. We're willing to work with them. They've got our number. Everybody that came, we gave our phone number, email address, anything. But that's really, that's the overview.
We'll go for questions.
You want to review what your intentions are for the property?
Okay, so I think everybody knows the old schoolhouse. So obviously that's the property. It's not an ideal plot by any means, as we can see, but it is an ideal location, especially with the galaxy going across the street. So we picked a location that's going to have a lot of foot traffic. We also want to join the Distillery Trail, which is here in Central Ohio, with the likes of High Bank, Watershed, Echo Spirit. But we'd be the first in Delaware County. So it's going to kind of bring traffic and, and visits that way. We've already got permission to do the Distillery Trail for it in the open. The initial plan is that the schoolhouse will house a tasting room, a small cocktail bar, and a retail shop, for merchandise. We would build a production building. So as soon as we close on the property, we go into contract for a production building, which is where the still and all the equipment would be. That's where we would produce. Initially, we will source product because to get a still, it takes many months. So we would source products, some from local distilleries here that we've already worked with and gotten equipment from. And then once the equipment is in, we would also produce. So initially source just to get kind of a money revenue going and be able to sell a product and then produce. And see how those lines go. But that's the intention. Future, kind of another phase, is that our hopes is that we outgrow that schoolhouse very quickly. Maybe turn it into more of a venue spot, for rentals, and that we would then have an extension on the production building, which would be a cocktail bar, more tables, maybe some food options.
Was that the phase 2 that was
That's
referenced?
phase 2.
Okay.
How many seats would you have?
In the schoolhouse, the capacity is 40. So it's a tasting room, so the intention is not to have 40 seats by any means. It's more a tasting room, and then we offer tours that would go through the production building. In the future, I don't think we've landed on a number, less than 100, for sure. I know the one issue one concern has come up, we share the concern is parking.
Right.
We're not sure even the 30-some spots is going to be enough, so we're working with our civil engineer to see what other options we may have, because that's not only a concern that was voiced at the last hearing, but also a concern.
You're just looking in the code, it's like 1 parking spot per seat or something when it's a restaurant.
Correct.
That's the closest I think that this comes, right?
Yeah, and that's where we kind of got a little bit confused because we really didn't fall under any one particular category.
Right.
So here in the fire department.
Right.
And the parking would be in the front of the building?
What we're proposing now, but we're also looking, working with the civil engineer to propose maybe different locations for.
Is it the mission?
Yeah. Predicated on what the neighbors had said and also what we could possibly do with more parking. We're maybe thinking that the production facility could move more to the south. The detention system would have to move somewhere more to the east and possibly north to accommodate. So this was just a preliminary goal. We have to find out what is still possible back to see.
Would they still be in compliance with the plan if they made those changes?
It would depend on how far south the new building would go.
And they would need to get a rezoning if it was. Would they have to rezone if it was substantially not in compliance with the
If they didn't meet the setbacks, then they would have to apply for a zoning amendment or apply for a variance.
I just want to make sure that you don't have to come back and do that, preferably for your own hassle. Of having to. It's sometimes different. Sometimes it's difficult because in our township we don't really have an administrative review process for the trustees. So sometimes in some townships you can tweak something before the board, but you can't really do that here. So sometimes you have to come back through for a full rezoning if it's changed enough. So I would want to make sure that anything you were thinking about asking in the future, we specified it here, just to make sure you don't have to do that.
We'll also be talking to the new development across the street. I believe there's a 750 space parking garage going into the Galaxy across the street.
Across which road?
Across East Hall Road. Main entrance would be way. According to development plans, main entrance on East Hall Road.
So would you have a shared parking agreement then, if you were to use that overflow parking?
That would be our intent to approach them and ask. They would advertise it as a public parking garage. So I don't know that we don't know. We don't know if we need the permission or not. It's public.
Mm-hmm. Is their entrance just on the other side of the daycare to Galaxy?
I'm
just not aware.
To the west of the daycare center.
And it's marked for a different phase of their, like initially, right now, it's just broken ground. That's
Right.
their first phase.
Correct.
The entrance on the east tower will be one of their future phases that they've got in the plans. But yeah, our intention is, I mean, parking is our biggest concern right now.
Right.
And that's where we're just working with the civil engineer to giving him the goal of maximize parking. And if we can't, then we kind of have a plan B of approaching either the developer or seeing what, that is and possibly we can offer about it over there.
Is that, the parking would be where the hand is right now?
Is that
The parking
Galaxy's
garage?
We believe that the entrance to that new complex to be just to the south of where that residence is.
Here?
A little more. Yeah, a little more. Yeah, right about there.
So they would have to cross the street?
Cross East Powell to get over to you?
That's why it may be more of a valet situation where they
Okay.
get out.
And then you guys would provide something. That would be a service you guys could offer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of am opposed to the sea of asphalt. I can't stand the way it looks. Sometimes there's options where you can do like, I don't know if you've seen it, Robin, where there's like a gravel thing where you can have, it's like gravel and it drains below. And
Permeable pavers, yeah.
what's it called again?
Permeable pavers.
Yeah, okay, yeah. There's options like that look more aesthetically pleasing, but it's more of an overflow, but it counts as parking. Might be really expensive.
As long as we see asphalt requirements, asphalt requirements would be open.
Yeah, does that meet the requirements for parking?
I would have to look at it. I'm not sure at this time.
It just looks nicer sometimes, but. So you would think they would need maybe 100 spots of parking? I mean, because we have a situation with another business that will be unnamed that I've visited several times. It doesn't have enough parking. And I don't know how that was approved. It's another restaurant, bar, coffee bar. And when I go there, there's literally nowhere to park. And it's very small, very cute, and I love it, but I don't know how that. And then we have Walmart that has way too much parking. It's extremely hideous.
The one you're mentioning does have some shared parking agreements with these surrounding neighborhood businesses.
It does, okay, but you're not aware of that when you pull in,
No.
and you have people. Yeah, it's one of the few, but very rarely have I seen parking issues in all my years here in the township. Usually too much parking,
Yeah.
but.
I guess if you don't have enough parking, that's a good problem to work
Right,
on.
it's pretty rare, yeah. That would be a concern because you wouldn't want people parking, I guess they could park in the grass or, you wouldn't want them, they couldn't park along the main road, but I guess it wouldn't encroach on the neighbors if you didn't have enough parking. And that's usually the concern. There's not enough parking. You end up parking in other people's areas, and I don't really
do that.
see how that would be possible without violating the law, and it doesn't seem physically possible, really. So the neighbors seem like they're mostly in support of this.
There were some concerns on it being anything but what it has been over the last few years. Obviously, our goal is to be much more high traffic than the Christmas shop or the art studio have been. So, I think it's more of a resistance to change than anything. I think we've been most of their questions. I've emailed them and said if there's any other concerns, we're happy to, together meet with you, and I've not heard any emails back. But we did hand out our phone number and our email address.
And I like the fact that you're keeping the existing structure and, and it's kind of fun. What you showed us in your rendering is a fun, old and modern, right? Combining of the two. So I appreciate you guys keeping that building.
Yeah, I think I was working for the zoning boards when this was originally rezoned 20 some years ago, when Anna and her husband came in. I still remember that hearing somehow. And I think it was just abandoned then and maybe was vacant. Now, is there a possibility that this could end up being just a full-fledged bar restaurant? In the zoning legally, could it become?
Not under this current plan district text, no.
I'm sorry, what?
Not under the current plan, not under the plan district text that they are proposing.
Okay, so there's no chance.
So it'd always be a distillery.
Right, that is our main focus, and the bar is really a means to sell our product that we have through.
Okay.
So it's a cocktail bar. It's not, we're not going to have all full bar at all. We're going to have drinks that have our products in them. So a small cocktail bar and then tasting.
Okay, so there's no chance it could become a. Is there
Say if your business were to close.
The thing with this commercial, or this planned commercial district, and the reason why they're even here today is because it's always been very specific uses. So that they are coming to amend it for their specific use. So anything else that's not within this fine line of uses would have to come back.
But how would that be determined? Like, how would
It would be
zoning enforce, like, I'd say they're selling 80% food and 20% alcohol. How would zoning enforce, what does it say in the text?
if their
that
use is
limits-
classified as a distillery, then that's what we.
It has to be a distillery. Okay. It can't ever become a bar and restaurant, because that would be a concern if you sold it, in 10 years. You always have to look at the precedents and the current zoning, because what it is now could change in the future to something that no one expected. Do you have a question, Mike?
I do not, but I want to thank you for your willingness to open a small business in our township.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's pretty rare. I mean, mostly get
We're pretty excited.
big companies. Yeah, it's super exciting.
Right, lots of emotions.
Do you have a name picked out for it?
It is Dog Distilling Company.
It is?
It will be dog themed.
Okay.
That's fine.
Products, merchandise, t-shirts, bags, everything will be dog. Yeah, and we're actually looking, once we start making money, will be a few months. We are going to pick a canine associated, whether that's a humane society or canines for the, but a dog-based charity to donate portion.
Yeah, you could have like a open house of dogs or something,
She
like
has 6, so
humane-
she'd like to bring all of us.
I do not have 6 dogs. That's a bad rumor.
About the dogs coming into our property, but we're not really sure.
Right,
That's a good idea.
right.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
lot.
sometimes you have like an area where you could, have a meet and greet for a couple hours or adoptable animals without it, as long as it wasn't, 1,000. But sometimes that'd be kind of fun for all the dogs.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That's true. That's true. So my only concern was the fact that you guys hadn't submitted to fire yet, and I'm.
Yes, we actually met with fire marshal, so we need to have the architect.
Draw some additional-
Yeah, so
right.
they gave us our classification so that we can.
Okay.
Obviously, if we can't get this rezoned,
You're not
we're
going to purchase.
contracting with
Correct.
anybody, so we have a bunch of quotes right now.
Right.
The only thing we contracted with is the civil engineer.
Okay.
So we don't want to, obviously, if we can't be here, we don't want to spend that much money. But yeah, so we
Right.
met with them, know how we're classified, and
Okay.
what we need, and they're.
Did you meet with Mike Clark? Is that ours? Okay, great.
So if that is a concern to the board, we did draft language as a modification, and that would state the applicant shall obtain all necessary approvals from the Orange Township Fire Department prior to approval of the zoning permit.
Okay.
From Orange.
Is that standard anyway? Can
Yes.
they actually
Normally
obtain?
they've come to us. They've spoken with fire and we have the fire approval before, at least since I've been here.
Yeah, but they don't have. I mean, I'm just saying. I think it's required anyway.
It's not a requirement. It's just a practice that we like to have.
They don't need to have.
It's not for a rezoning now.
It is not in our zoning code, no.
Or before you issue a zoning permit, they don't have to.
They do have to have it for the permit itself.
I mean, for the permit, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't operate without the permit.
Correct.
So in essence, until they obtain the proper approval from the fire department, they cannot operate.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So that.
Yeah, and
Basically,
if there's any
yeah.
significant changes, I mean, the reason why we like to encourage the applicant to discuss with the fire engineer ahead of time is if they have to make any substantial changes to the site plan, let's address those now before having to go for
Definitely,
another
yeah.
zoning change.
And
So.
you didn't have to do that when you talked to Mike.
Well, we know we have to do a tap because we're gonna have sprinklers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but as far as the
But
site
as far as the
layout,
location of the building or anything like
Yeah.
But for the benefit of the public, that they won't be able to operate unless they meet those. So I'm not as concerned about having it all laid out because you won't be able to open unless the fire department approves of everything you're doing.
We have changed the driveway as well.
that. Oh, you do?
Oh,
It's not wide enough for the fire truck.
That's
We
what I was
also
wondering.
need a long driveway, have to do over 120 feet, and have to provide a turnaround, which also then
Okay.
is another reason the civil engineer is kind of looking and making sure we can accommodate all of that.
Okay.
But yeah, this is an industry that you make sure you have every I dotted and every T crossed with the fire marshal.
Yes.
What they say.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how many, the building will have to remain, correct, Robin, per the text? It cannot,
The
could it be
existing
demolished, the existing building? Anything keep them from demolishing and building?
it's not a historically classified building, and there's no, I don't know how zoning can guarantee it.
No.
Yeah, I think they would have to rebuild it to and comply with the existing
the
standards.
existing standards,
but
okay.
we can't force them to keep it up.
Just for the public's knowledge.
Yeah, it is.
But you do
yeah,
not-
it's
you intend to
on the
keep
historical
it.
registry. We are going to necessarily all that besides the location, one of the main things is that
Right.
we kind of fell in love with the schoolhouse.
Right.
The charm of it, and kind of like you said, bringing the old with the new. At least our intention, while we own it, is not to tear it down.
And is there a lot of interior renovations that you have to do to bring it up to code?
Cosmetic.
Okay. But it has restrooms that are enough for what you're doing at first, okay.
We need to confirm they're ADA compliant. They look ADA compliant.
Right.
They appear big enough, but we've not done.
To double check that, okay. And how tall is, so when I looked at this drawing, you've got the height of kind of like the easement, but not the peak. Am I correct in thinking that the new building is not going to be any taller than the existing building?
We're looking at 20 at the peak, and that's just to accommodate the equipment that we're
Okay.
ordering.
We're looking at 20 to the peak,
20
and then 20 to the ceiling height inside to accommodate the
Okay.
equipment. But no, we don't know for 100% sure if the roof lines are going to be exactly the same height.
But it's going to be the same generally. It's not like we're going to have a 40
We're going to have a
foot.
40-foot tall building.
Right, okay.
That's specified in the text?
The height limit is 50 feet.
Is
In the text.
Okay, do we want to limit it more for future use? I mean, I'd like to limit that because, again, we're just looking forward to future uses and protecting the residents. Would you commit to a maximum height of 28 feet?
We do 30 feet, as you say. We
Yeah.
really don't.
That's
know.
fine. Or is 30,
I was
Well,
gonna say
35 is for residential, if you want to do
or
that.
35?
35, yeah.
That's perfect. All right, can you write that in, Michelle?
Yes.
Because, if someone came in with a very similar use, and how many employees do you think you will have?
Initially, it will be us.
4?
But we're not open 7 days a week.
Oh yeah, talk about
Yeah,
your
the
hours.
hours of operation, yeah.
So we're looking at a Thursday through Sunday, kind of a normal distillery kind of thing. So Thursday, we're looking at like 5. Is it go to 10? 5 to 10, Sunday same, or Friday the same, Saturday noon to 10, and Sunday noon to 6.
And do you have to get liquor licenses, obviously? And are those available?
We cannot apply until, they are available in the town, in the precinct.
There are still some, okay.
It's available in Orange Key precinct. We just have to apply, but we can't apply until we.
Okay. And which designation would you be applying for?
So we'd be applying for, obviously, manufacturer of spirits liquor, so A1A, A3A, and then we'd be applying to operate the bar and cocktails. We'd be applying for D2, D3, and then a D6 is Sunday.
And there already is approved Sunday sales in that precinct.
So Ohio is a convoluted liquor control state. So we have to apply to get an answer. All we can do at this point is do a precinct history and say that parcel has never applied for a liquor permit. That's all we can find out.
Okay, so you don't know if there's anybody else in that precinct that has ever applied. Because if they've never applied, my understanding is then you guys have to go on the ballot to get approval, right? And so if you want to be on the November ballot,
Correct.
you have to do that by August 9th.
You
Yeah.
can apply for a liquor permit to find out the official stamp that you're dry or wet until you own the property, but you can indeed petition.
Okay.
Okay,
You
So
can
we're gonna
petition
kind of
before.
preemptively
Okay,
petition in the event
that everything
that we
goes
need to be
forward.
on the ballot.
Okay, gotcha.
For,
Does that make sense?
for November,
For
or?
November.
You're working with an attorney? You don't have to.
We don't have to. We've been through this before, so.
Okay, you know what you're doing. Okay, good.
Okay. And then timeline on, because at this point you're just really making a little store, right? As soon as you close on the property, what's your timeline as far as being able to be a business?
So we need a production building
Right.
to apply for a manufacturer license. So
Okay.
we can't get a liquor permit as a manufacturer until the production building is actually done.
Okay.
So the only thing we could feasibly do before that happens is that we could retail store merchandise and non-alcoholic. That would be the only thing.
So you're just going to wait and open everything all at the same time?
When do you think that?
But you'll have to, because you'll have to get your architects and your engineers and everybody on board. You've got to do the whole
As
design
soon as-
process and all that.
Yes, as soon as the SBA loan is closed, the property closes, the contracts
Contracts
are
will be
all signed
signed.
with the architect. Well, actually, the architect has to be before, because that's involved.
Right, that's first. Yeah.
As soon as we rezone, we get the architect on board, because that's required for the SBA. The SBA loan closes, the property closes, as well as the, general contract.
Okay. Would you start distilling though before you open? Oh, no, okay.
Have to have the production building.
Okay.
So it might need another
We're
year.
probably 1 year.
Okay,
This year.
before you open.
Spring
The
business,
architect and
yeah.
the civil engineer get together, and then
Right, and it's,
all the MEPs and the
Right.
fire suppression.
and the construction's probably at least,
At least minimum start date.
I mean, a
somewhere
house
in
is,
November,
right,
December.
a house is like 9 months to build a house.
Yeah.
So,
This will go faster. It's just a
Okay.
skill building.
okay,
The construction part will go faster for us.
okay,
Get started.
gotcha.
November, December timeframe, probably open.
The stars align spring, maybe more realistically.
Summer. Okay. Oh, yeah. Do we have any questions up here? Can we open it for public comment?
I think I reserve questions for
To
later,
come back
but
on
yeah,
first,
you
yes,
can open it
always,
up.
yeah. Okay, do we have any public comment?
The distilling process.
Do you want to come up and state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Mark Arrowwood, 7700 Windy Hill Court, Lewis Center. Their distilling process. Has there been an environmental impact study as far as what kind of chemicals you'll be using for distilling and what the possible outcome of using those chemicals could be to the community?
So it's actually not really chemicals, it's grains. So we're gonna, like for our vodka, we're gonna use corn and water, yeast, and am I missing anything? It's a pretty basic recipe.
Do you use ethanol?
It produces ethanol in the process.
Okay. About any runoff as far as water? I know you use a lot of water.
Mhm.
Also, I noticed that some communities that have had this have like a black mold.
So that is in Kentucky, absolutely, and
Yes.
it is with their, it's a mold that appreciates whiskey, and that's what it feeds on, and it is their massive production buildings,
Right.
and it's actually their warehouses. It's the storage.
Okay.
So yeah, you need a lot of whiskey, much more than that property would allow, and it's right now it's isolated in Kentucky. We've not seen any in Ohio, but we will not have anywhere near that capacity of storage. But I know exactly what
We
you're talking about.
cannot store enough to produce the angel share that makes that
Right,
happen.
right.
Okay.
But you're exactly right.
And what about the aroma, the community?
So you can describe it. Yeah, we had that in place.
Yeah, the smell is contained inside, so even when you're storing, you don't really smell the alcohol unless you're in the actual storage room. And even when you're producing, I think some of you might get, and what the only close to the building would be like someone cooking a corn type mush kind of smell, but nothing that's like offensive.
It depends on the person.
Mush.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, unless you don't like corn mush, I guess.
The only other concern is traffic.
Oh, sir, did you identify your name and address real quick? Yeah, just wait, since you were speaking.
Okay. I'm Kevin Webb, 14.
Just traffic.
And you said traffic, yeah?
Traffic is another concern as far as that neighborhood because you have a lot of people that are walking and running in that area. A lot of kids on bicycles in that area.
On East Powell?
They've got walking paths they've been putting in down there now.
Does the walking path go all the way to like Worthington Road and like in front of the property?
The one that we're trying to get done, or
Goes at least
That's the other
right in
side.
front of the property, but it might stop at the very next parcel. I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't extend too far
Doesn't
north.
extend.
Is it going to extend?
I mean, that is the goal,
Is
yes.
it going-
But this is not, the property that we're trying to put the path in is on the other side of 71, so this is,
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just
eventually.
another
East
concern of
Powell
mine.
has a trail.
Yeah.
Just heavy traffic in that area.
Yeah, there's definitely heavy traffic in that area.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
And this may add to that. So there may be some, and that's in an area where it's kind of a blind spot as you're coming in. And my concern is the egress and then people coming out and in of that property. There
I
could
think
be a
it'll be easier
blind
to turn
spot
right
there.
out than,
Yeah.
than left out. But yeah.
So there could be some accidents in that area. I don't know. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah, and we're working, like we mentioned before, on fire truck entrance, so that entrance will be.
Was a traffic study done? I meant to ask that.
No.
No,
It wasn't, no one was
not-
required.
Not for this type of use.
And what about the environmental impacts is, I know when we're issuing like a conditional use permit, there's all those rules about not creating hazardous smells and things, but what would if this business did have objectionable smells or things, who would regulate that?
That would probably be the EPA, Ohio EPA.
Anybody else have any questions? Comments? We did have an email that came in today that talked about the smells. Was that you guys? No? Okay. Someone named Sarah Gibson had similar questions. And I think, no, she asked about the smells.
And she did ask those questions at the zoning
At the
commission
zoning
hearing.
commission, yeah, and she talked about the environmental risk and the wastewater treatment, solid byproduct treatment, and gases. Two questions about that. Are there concerns for environmental risks such as fungi also seemingly associated with some distilleries, wastewater treatment, solid byproduct treatment, and gases?
Yeah, no, I mean, the mildew issue is really not the distillery process, it's the storage.
Storage.
Said.
Okay.
The, and yeah, we addressed this with her too at the last meeting, but the solid, what our goal is, when it's done cooking, you kind of have the match that's left, it's just
Right.
solid.
What happens with that?
Material.
Yeah.
That is actually is able to be fed to livestock, so our goal is to find a farmer that will actually take it, feed it to livestock instead of having waste that otherwise could be recycled. So that's our goal, is to actually have all of that.
Okay. Then they talked about the operating hours and noise limits.
They would have to follow the Orange Township noise resolution.
Okay. And then concerns with the traffic pattern to accommodate outbound cars from the lot. So that was the questions that resident had.
Is there's a sign, was the sign presented in this
No,
application? Okay, so they go to the BZA.
If they wanted a freestanding sign, yes.
Okay.
A monument sign.
Do you think you're going to request a monument sign?
We will have a sign at the road, but given that we haven't contracted with the general contractor yet, we don't have that. So in this, we comply with all the current signage. And then we know we do a permit process to get a sign.
So you'll have to go before the BZA later. You're aware of that. How much? And it's like, is it $800?
600.
600. Okay, you're aware of that. And it takes a couple months. You're good.
We just keep adding it to this.
Yes. You're going way out there. I just want to make sure because sometimes that can take, about a month or so to get on.
Yeah.
And there's a little more of an expense and things like that.
Those are the only comments that I had. Any other public comment?
Do we need to do, so how many spaces are there? How many parking spaces?
Oh, right. Yeah. So you have 31 on the drawing, but you said a minimum of 17 is what you were.
Yeah, so the 33 or 31,
Okay.
whatever it was, that came in 11th hour when it was the next day. So the CE sent that, so we had originally submitted with 17. He sent that drawing, we kind of added it at the 11th, literally the 11th hour.
Okay.
So we had asked for 17. There was not, no classification that worked with what we were.
Right.
It has 13. We were saying 17 just because we didn't know what the number. But again, we're not even feeling like that 30-some is going to be enough.
Right.
So that's where we know we're going to have to come back, whether it's a variance or whatever. If the civil engineer says, you know what, the building's going to be better somewhere else, it'll allow more parking,
So if you move the building and it doesn't comply with where it's shown here, is that they'll have to get it rezoned if it doesn't substantially comply?
They would either have to amend the plan district text or get a variance from our Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay. And how likely is it for a variance? Would that be a use variance?
It would be an area variance. Assuming it's a setback issue, which it probably would be. And the board typically considers anything over 25% request to be substantial. So it would depend on the number of feet that it projects into the setback.
But it would definitely project in the setback. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, no, not definitely.
Well, I'm just saying to move the buildings around. Can they move the buildings around?
What is the setback on the south side?
So currently, the schoolhouse sits at 75 feet from the south, and the garage that's standing, which will be torn down, that sits at 58. So we've asked for a variance of basically 18 feet to be 40 instead of 58, which is the existing.
In the text, that's in the text now?
It
is?
Okay. We've not asked for a variance in there on the south. So if the civil engineer comes back and says.
Okay, then you would request a variance.
Yes.
Okay. But can they move the buildings around at all? Say it does meet the setbacks. Can they move these buildings?
Well, is there a reason why you don't want 40 feet on each side?
Well, we love it. We just didn't want to be greedy.
We didn't know what, we're not developers, so we really didn't know what to ask for.
Right.
And we didn't really know what could and could not be done. We won't know that till the civil engineer puts more time into it until, then we gotta come back and see.
This is Columbus on the south, right?
That is, no. it is
Okay.
not.
Across the street.
Oh, okay.
The Galaxy is Columbus.
If it has to be tweaked a little bit, I would be okay with approving it with, I mean, I don't know how the other two feel, but approving with a little bit of modifications. They don't have to come back for something like that. Because that's it. You would actually have to go through the rezoning process all over again, unless you got a variance.
Zoning or variance?
Well, you could request a variance.
You can do either.
You
But
can do it, that's much faster, but if they didn't approve it, then you have to go through.
And
rezoning.
variances are determined on a hardship. So if, depending on the reason why, there's certain criteria that grants a variance. So if it's just because you want it down there, that there's a chance the board might not consider that as a hardship. So it would be a better opportunity to discuss setbacks at this level, to avoid.
They don't really, are they still pretty tough about the variances?
Well, to Robin's point, they have a pretty fine line on how far they'll go. So
sometimes
it
no
is a
more than
risk.
10% of a
Yeah.
variance, and you have to show it, and then you'll have to prove that there is a hardship, and that pretty much, and it can be difficult for a reason. We don't just hand out variances,
Right.
So if there's something reasonable that you'd like to request to ensure that if there were changes without taking advantage, ask for those now. I would. Or how do you two feel about that?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously be our preferred route as well. If we could.
Yeah, what would that be then?
Because what's the variance supposed to be? What's the setback supposed to be on the north and south side?
It's 100 on everything
Oh,
being
right.
residential, but the lot signs are 200.
Right, exactly. So
So yeah,
that's
so currently it's 75 on the south,
58 on the north.
We've asked for 40 on the north, and then for the south, would you consider 30 reasonable?
And
Right now,
what's
it's a vacant lot.
That's
on
what I was
the
going to
south.
ask. What is the property
It's
to
a
the
vacant
south?
lot.
It's a big one. What is
On the
it?
south side, so where Lewis Center, that lot, you can see where the black line ends.
Yeah.
That's the lot. So yeah.
Is there anyone there? No one that lives there? Is
So
it
on the next
residential?
plot, he owns both of those. He lives on the second one.
Can you pull up the?
And
that would-
Otters
That would
website?
just be, wait, would it just be for parking or for building?
That would be for
Building?
building
Because the
setbacks.
thought is you have to move the parking, and they might need to be parking on the north side, so the buildings might have to.
Move all this
Right,
out, yeah.
Right, and that's, and we're just really, the whole goal of what we've asked the civil engineer is how can you maximize parking? That right now is what we.
Which engineer are you working with?
His name is Eric Elnation, Tasla, so Elnation Engineering.
And how,
I'm sorry, Nick Elnation.
and the building is 30, the south building is 36 feet wide, or long, or deep.
Why?
And that's kind of where my 30 came from. If he would say, you know what, put the building
Yeah,
south of the schoolhouse, it would be enough to allow.
So would that be, does it say, I'm sorry, is it 36 or 35 width? 36?
36.
Okay.
And have you guys chatted with the homeowner that's just like the next, like your neighbor on East Powell? Just wondering.
The one to the north or the south?
Both.
The north, we met them at the last zoning hearing.
Okay.
And he has our, name.
Okay.
I'm here on behalf of them. They're on vacation.
Let's
So,
go.
hi.
He has our name and number. Yeah.
Wait, what did she say? I'm sorry.
So they've been in contact with the property on the north, and then the south you haven't had any communication with?
I have not heard back on the message.
From Dr. Kersey?
Correct.
He was the one who sent the email this morning in favor.
He's already in
Okay, great.
favor,
Okay, so
but
you've got the.
We able to hear what he said? Is he on? Well,
yeah,
And then
I
also
read it.
Acorn Farms is the one that's
Yeah.
basically to the north that you have that letter as well.
And right. So Dr. Kersey said, I live immediately adjacent to the proposed distillery. I have absolutely no objections to this and think this is a fine idea. I wish them every possible success. So,
So what if it was if it's 36 feet, do you think a 35-foot setback in the south?
So we have to allow a fire barrier if we put another building next to the
Okay.
existing.
Okay, so 30 is probably, okay. I mean, are there any neighbors that object to the changes we're proposing in the setbacks? No? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the surrounding homes, I mean, they have probably a lot
Yeah,
smaller
I'm okay with that.
setbacks.
That
I mean,
way you
it's
wouldn't.
not as big of a lot, of course, but.
Only.
Do you want to come up and
You wanna
say
come
your
and give
name
it-
and
yeah.
address and all that?
Since we're changing.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm Jessie Hutchinson. I'm here on behalf of my parents, Julie and Dallas Cooper, who live at 3745 East Powell Road. I think the only objection that they had was that tree line by where the entrance currently is, just how close that gets over there to their property and to their garage area. We have like a separate fencing system over there. So I think that they just were hoping to, I don't know, even like keep the trees potentially, just kind of like to have a little bit of separation. But I think that was the only concern as far as getting closer.
They're directly to the north? Is
Yes.
it the big property or the little one? Or the house?
So I believe that the reason there is like that really weird triangle at the bottom is that there's still an easement going through the garage that we did not build that. The previous owners did. And I believe that they obviously got that approved to have that garage built with the easement still going through it. So as of right now, it's kind of ours, if that makes sense, because they got that approval. So that being said, just where those trees are just south of that little triangle area, I guess, is what their concern was, just getting really close.
How many trees are there now? Is it 6?
I believe it's 3 or 4 large pine trees.
They're not in the best of shape, so
No.
if we were to get rid of them, we would replace
Okay.
Can you
Yeah.
commit?
them. And we're required to have a certain amount of green space anyway, so
Mhm.
yeah. our
You commit, so you'll commit to preserving that line of trees and replacing them only if they're dead or diseased, though, correct? Can you put that in there, Michelle?
Is that already in there in the
Is it?
landscaping plan?
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, if the trees,
Is
that
it
tree
in
line,
there?
is that
It's in the
that,
text that we'll
preserve it?
some-
Okay.
yeah.
Is it in there already? It is? Okay. Here it is. Does it say they'll replace it if they are diseased? Robin, do you know? If it says that they'll replace it?
That,
Are you looking?
no, there is not that language in the,
So it says they'll preserve it, but it doesn't make any statement that, can you put that in there?
So
that
I
they'll
can
be
say this tree line, I'm trying to think how I word this. Tree line, the existing tree line on the northern side, along the northern property line shall be maintained and replaced when needed or
The
something.
northern property line adjacent to that parcel, that triangular parcel, adjacent, yeah, because probably not the whole tree line, or is,
You can kind of say northwest corner, because
Yeah.
the rest is all like wooded area.
Right.
The trees, I believe, are
Yes.
really fully pointing to
Yeah,
it.
the pine trees.
The ones very close to East Powell, right to
the
the
large
side of the
stand of pine
current.
trees?
And when you met with Mike at the fire department, when you said you're going to have to modify the entrance, would you be able to widen it to the south?
We'll probably have to widen it to the south, to
Okay.
make that right-hand turn
Okay.
for a ladder truck or pumper to get in.
Okay.
So that would be our
So
intent.
there won't be any
It would not
driveway
be to the
closer to the north. Okay, great.
We're trying to avoid that at all
Okay.
costs. It should be noted too that, after speaking with your mom and dad, a large part of the reason why we want to see if we can move the production facility to the south, because that leads to a dumpster being able to be placed on that side. Lights, right? We have to get a photometric image.
Yep.
So that was a big part of the reason why we want to move it. We want to.
Sure.
Right.
We want to be a good neighbor.
Well, I know that they appreciate that for sure.
Honestly, we love this schoolhouse so much, but it would be so much easier for us if we just doze the whole thing and start it over. We don't want to do that.
Right.
But from a zoning and variance and setback, civil engineering and parking aspect, it would be a lot easier on the 4 of us.
Yeah.
But we do not want to do that.
But it wouldn't get as much attention as preserving an old schoolhouse, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah,
much more
that will help.
exciting. And just to note that zoning does not regulate hours of operation in townships, so even though you're committing to those hours, technically they could be open later, earlier, and we can't do anything about it as a township, so just for the public to know. And for the parking you have, I'm sorry, how many, 31 or 17 or?
So we can definitely commit to the
31.
31. So we can definitely commit to a minimum of that. We want more.
Yeah, do we need to do, I know that my concern is if you do have up to 100 people there, right? Is that what you said? You could have up to 100 people there. You might need more parking, but,
We don't have any parking maximums in our text. It's more like a lot coverage or open space issue.
Yeah.
But they have so much open space behind. I'm not
yeah,
concerned.
they could park. Yeah, I mean, and I'm thinking too, it would be a self-limiting issue anyway. It's not like you have, people can't park in the woods and, well, they can't encroach, and if they had to park in the grass, I guess that would be your problem, I mean, if that would be your choice.
Most of the back property is floodplain.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess you said 31. And is that in the text already?
That is in
That was on the site plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that committed to sufficiently?
The minimum, yeah.
31? Okay, that's fine.
Well, right now I believe the text said 17 minutes, right? Did we?
Yeah,
The
that's what I
text
thought.
says 17, the image since it was added the last.
It says 31.
So can we just clarify 30, minimum 31 in the text?
Sure.
Because sometimes there's a conflict between the text.
Okay.
You sure you don't have questions, Mike? Have you thought of anything else? Okay. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I don't think we have any distilleries in the township. This will be the first. This will be the first one. It's exciting. Yeah, and I'm glad to see everything being improved and fixed up too. That'll be nice. And thank you for preserving it. I don't think I have any more questions.
Okay, I'm just Robin and I are messaging. We're just working on modifying the language for the resolution.
Do you want to take like a 5-minute recess to
Sure.
do your typing?
Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess to get the list together, and then we'll have you out of here.
Okay. Do you have to make a motion or something for that?
No,
But just say take a.
We're gonna take a
5-minute
5-minute recess.
I didn't know you had some others.
Okay. Alrighty.
Okay.
We'll go back.
We're going to return to session. You guys ready? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
We're ready.
We're good.
We're gonna receive.
All right.
You got a wall thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Are they on the computer? Okay.
They are.
Good.
Yes.
We
Okay.
get. You want to? When you
Do I
make
read
the
it first?
I would read the title and then just identify the modification so the applicant's aware.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
We're coming back from recess.
Yes, we'll
Just for the
come back from
record.
recess
Coming
from
back from
the
recess.
record.
Okay. Okay, so we are going to adopt with modifications, right? Okay. I make a motion to, do I need to read the modifications?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I'm sorry, sir, just for the recording, sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't want,
Background noise.
the background noise and for the recording, appreciate it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can I read the modifications after I read the whole title?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-198 to adopt with modifications the recommendation of the approval of the zoning commission as to zoning application ZON 23-02 of Dog Distillery for rezoning from planned commercial and office district to planned commercial and office district. And these are the modifications. The applicant shall obtain all necessary approvals from the Orange Township Fire Department prior to approval of the zoning permits from Orange Township. The maximum building height shall not exceed 35 feet. The building setback from the northern and southern property line shall be a minimum of 30 feet. The existing tree line located at the northwest corner of the site shall be well maintained. Dead trees shall be promptly removed and shall be replaced within 6 months. There shall be a minimum of 31 parking spaces.
And you said the setbacks, right?
Yes, I said the setback. Yeah,
Yes,
30 feet.
at 35 feet.
30 feet. Minimum of 30 feet.
Okay. Did we just change the one setback?
Well, the one was
We did the northern and southern.
For 40 and 30.
but we said 30 for both.
Oh, sir. Oh, I thought you asked for 40 for the one.
For the north.
It's 40 for the north.
Do you want,
We're good with 30 and 30.
Okay.
I mean, standard, it's usually the same on each side,
side.
so.
But she asked for 40, so are you good with 40?
But she's,
On
but
the
30
south
is
side,
more.
we're gonna need, if we put.
Well, on the north.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the same, but since she asked for 40.
I just needed to change again.
Well, we could just read it and just,
The building setback from the northern property line shall be 40 feet, and from the southern line shall be a minimum property of 30 feet.
that's what she, I don't,
Okay.
that's what she asked
That's
for.
fine.
Um,
Do we have a second?
wait,
I mean, I can ask for 30 on the north side.
you can ask, but you asked for 40, so I want the first answer. Well,
Fair
'cause
point.
I think it's pretty generous to give 30 from
No, I
75, so I don't give too much, and there's people that live up there.
Sure.
Second?
Okay.
Did you want a second?
By all means.
Okay. Those voting, trustee Faust,
Yes.
trustee Knapp,
Yes.
trustee Ringel.
Yes.
And carries.
All right.
That's all we have.
Have to approve resolution till adjourn? Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all so
Thank you.
much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Very